Commander Thexal stood on the bridge of his warship and looked at the small blue planet below. Earth. That was what the humans called it. He had conquered 847 star systems in his lifetime. This would be 848. The Velkari Empire had never lost a war. They were built for victory. Their scientists had changed their bodies before birth, making them stronger, faster, and smarter than any natural species could be. Thexal could crush steel with his bare hands. He could see in the dark. His mind could calculate battle strategies in seconds. He was perfect, just like all Velkari warriors. Behind him stood 14 more warriors. They were the Supremacy Guard, the best of the best. Each one had destroyed armies. Each one had brought entire worlds to their knees. Together, they were unstoppable. "The planet has primitive defenses," said Lieutenant Croven, studying the scans. "Their weapons are basic. Their ships are slow. This will take less than a day." Thexal nodded. It was always the same. They would arrive, show their power, and the aliens would surrender. Sometimes the aliens tried to fight. Those fights never lasted long. "Send the message," Thexal ordered. "Tell them to prepare for our arrival. Tell them the Velkari Empire has come." The message was sent. Thexal expected fear. He expected panic. He expected governments to collapse and leaders to beg for mercy. That was how it always went. But the response surprised him. A single small ship left the planet's atmosphere. It was unarmed. No weapons, no shields, nothing that could threaten them. It drifted toward Thexal's massive warship like a leaf floating on water. "Should we destroy it?" Croven asked. "No," Thexal said. "Let them come. I want to see their faces when they realize how powerless they are." The small ship docked with the warship. Thexal and his warriors waited in the docking bay, their weapons ready. The door opened. 2 humans stepped out. The first was a man in a simple blue uniform. He was tall for a human with dark hair and calm eyes. He showed no fear at all as he looked at the 15 Velkari warriors who could kill him in a heartbeat. "I'm Captain Jinho Park," the man said. "United Earth Defense Coalition. Welcome to our system." The second human was a woman, younger, with long black hair. She wore similar clothes and carried a small data pad. "This is Sumin Lee," Jinho continued. "She's here to help with communication." Thexal stared at them. Where was the fear? Where were the weapons? Where were the armies? "You are in the presence of the Supremacy Guard," Thexal said, his voice deep and powerful. "We have destroyed civilizations older than yours. We have turned entire planets to ash. Surrender now, and some of your people may survive." Jinho smiled. Actually smiled. "We got your message," he said. "That's why we're here. We wanted to invite you to Earth. Come down, meet our people, see our world. Then you can decide if you really want to fight us." The other Velkari warriors laughed. The sound was harsh and cold. "You invite us to your planet?" Croven said. "Do you not understand? We could destroy everything you have from orbit. Why would we waste time visiting your world?" Sumin spoke for the first time. Her voice was soft but steady. "Because if you don't, you'll never understand what you're up against." The words hung in the air. Thexal felt something he hadn't felt in years. Curiosity. These humans weren't acting like the others. They weren't begging or crying or trying to bargain. They were confident. Why? "Very well," Thexal said. "We will visit your Earth. We will see your people. And then we will show you why resistance is pointless." The journey to Earth's surface took less than an hour. Thexal and his warriors took their own landing craft, following Jinho's small ship. As they descended through the atmosphere, they saw cities below. Large cities full of buildings and lights, more advanced than expected, but still nothing compared to Velkari technology. They landed in a wide, open field near one of the cities. Thousands of humans had gathered to watch. Thexal expected them to run when they saw the Velkari warriors emerge from the ship. Instead, the humans just stood there, watching, waiting. Some of them were even taking pictures. "They're not afraid," Sinara whispered. She was one of the younger warriors, only 300 battles to her name. "Why aren't they afraid?" Jinho walked up to them. "The city is called Seoul. It's one of our oldest. We've prepared quarters for you and your team. Tomorrow we can begin discussions." "There is nothing to discuss," Thexal said, "only terms of surrender." "Maybe," Jinho said, "but first, you should see what you're asking us to surrender. Come. We've prepared a meal." The Velkari followed the humans into the city. They walked through streets full of people, humans going about their lives, working, talking, laughing. Children played in parks. Old people sat on benches. Nobody ran. Nobody screamed. It was wrong, all wrong. The Velkari were brought to a large building. Inside was a room with a long table covered in food. Strange earth food that smelled odd but not unpleasant. "Please sit," Suman said. "Eat. In our culture, we share meals with visitors before we talk about serious things." Thexal didn't want to sit. He wanted to understand why these humans weren't acting correctly. But sitting and eating couldn't hurt. It might even give him more information about their weakness. The Velkari sat. The humans served them food and explained what each dish was. Rice. Vegetables. Something called kimchi that was spicy and sour. Meat cooked in different ways. As they ate, Jinho talked. "Earth has 7 billion people. We live in almost every environment on this planet. Deserts, mountains, frozen lands, jungles. We've been here for hundreds of thousands of years." "And you still haven't mastered space travel properly," Krovan said. "Pathetic." "Maybe," Jinho agreed. He didn't seem insulted. "We're slow learners, but we're persistent. That's our real talent. We keep trying, even when things seem impossible." After the meal, the humans showed them to their quarters, comfortable rooms with soft beds. The Velkari didn't need such comfort, but they accepted it. That night, Thexal stood by a window and looked out at the city. Lights everywhere. Millions of humans going about their lives, unworried about the warriors who could end their world. "Commander," Sinara said behind him, "something is wrong here." "I know," Thexal said. "They should be terrified. They should be preparing defenses. They should be doing something, but they're just living." Thexal nodded slowly. "Tomorrow we will demand to see their warriors, their strongest fighters, their greatest weapons. Then we will understand." But deep inside, in a place he didn't like to acknowledge, Thexal wondered if maybe these humans knew something the Velkari didn't. Maybe there was a reason they weren't afraid. And maybe that reason was more dangerous than any weapon. He pushed the thought away. The Velkari were supreme. They had never lost. These humans were just another weak species pretending to be brave. Tomorrow would prove it. Tomorrow, everything would be clear. The next morning, Thexal made his demand clear. He wanted to see Earth's greatest warriors. He wanted proof of their strength. If the humans were so confident, they should be willing to prove themselves. Jinho agreed immediately. "We'll arrange trials," he said. "Physical challenges, mental challenges. Your warriors against ours. Fair competition." "There is no such thing as fair when competing against Velkari," Krovan said. "We are superior in every way." "Then you have nothing to lose," Suman said quietly. Thexal found himself agreeing. Let the humans embarrass themselves. Let them see how weak they truly were. Then they would understand. But Jinho added something unexpected. "However, we have a condition. If your warriors compete in our trials, you must also participate in challenges we design." Human trials. Thexal almost refused. Velkari didn't accept conditions from lesser species, but curiosity stopped him again. What could these humans possibly test that would challenge the Supremacy Guard? "Agreed," he said. The trials began that afternoon in a huge stadium. Thousands of humans came to watch. They cheered and shouted like they were at some kind of entertainment event. It was strange. This was combat. This was serious. But the humans treated it like a game. The first challenge was simple strength. Lifting, pushing, pulling heavy objects. The Velkari dominated completely. Kroven lifted weights that should have been impossible. Sinara broke records that had stood for years. The humans who competed did well for their species, but they were nothing compared to Velkari power. The crowd cheered anyway. They celebrated their human competitors, even though they lost. Thexal didn't understand it. The second challenge was speed and precision. Running, jumping, hitting targets. Again, the Velkari won easily. Their enhanced bodies moved like lightning. Their aim was perfect. The humans couldn't keep up. As expected, Thexal said to Jinho, "Your people are brave, but courage means nothing against superior genetics." "Maybe," Jinho said, "but we're not done yet." The third challenge was endurance, a long race, many kilometers, through difficult terrain, mountains, forests, rivers. The Velkari started strong. They pulled ahead immediately, their powerful legs eating up the distance. But something happened around the halfway point. The Velkari began to slow down. Their bodies, built for explosive power, weren't designed for long, steady effort. They had always won their battles quickly. Extended endurance had never been necessary. The humans kept going. They were slower, but they maintained their pace. Step after step, hour after hour, they just kept moving. A human named Hyunwoo Kim, who looked old by human standards, passed Sinara during the final stretch. He was breathing hard, sweating heavily, but he didn't stop. He crossed the finish line before she did. Sinara collapsed after finishing. She had never experienced failure before. "How?" she gasped. "How did that old male defeat me?" Hyunwoo, sitting nearby and drinking water, smiled at her. "I run marathons for fun," he said. "Been doing it for 30 years. You're faster and stronger, but I know how to keep going when everything hurts." That evening, the mental trials began. Complex puzzles, strategy games, problem-solving challenges. The Velkari were confident again. Their minds were enhanced, their tactical abilities perfect. But the humans approached problems differently. Where the Velkari used logic and calculation, humans used something else: intuition, guesswork, wild creativity. A human scientist named Nari Song solved a quantum physics puzzle in minutes. When asked to explain her method, she said, "I don't know. It just felt right. I imagined what the particles might want to do." "Particles don't want anything," Kroven said. "They follow laws of physics." "I know," Nari said, "but sometimes it helps to pretend they do. It helps me see patterns." The Velkari found this disturbing. How could illogical thinking produce correct answers? The final challenge of the day was direct combat, hand-to-hand fighting. This was what the Velkari had been waiting for. This was their specialty. Kroven stepped into the fighting ring. He was the Empire's champion. He had killed opponents with his bare hands on dozens of worlds. Across from him stood a human named Taeyang Han, a martial arts instructor. The human was smaller, weaker, slower. The fight should have been over in seconds. It wasn't. Taeyang moved strangely, not with pure speed or power, but with something else. He anticipated Kroven's strikes. He dodged, redirected, used the Velkari's strength against him. When Kroven adapted his strategy, Taeyang adapted too, changed his style, improvised. The fight lasted 10 minutes. Kroven won, but barely. His final strike knocked Taeyang to the ground, but the human got back up, bleeding but smiling. "Good match," Taeyang said, extending his hand. Kroven stared at the hand. In Velkari culture, defeated enemies didn't offer friendship. They died or submitted. This human had lost, but acted like it had been enjoyable. Kroven didn't take the hand. He walked away, confused and angry. He had won. So why did he feel like he had learned something disturbing? That night, the Supremacy Guard gathered in their quarters. The mood was different than before. Several warriors looked troubled. The endurance trials were meaningless, Croven insisted. In real combat, battles end quickly. We would destroy them before such things mattered. But what if we couldn't? Sinara asked. What if they made us fight a long war, could we? They won't have the chance, Thexal said firmly. But I admit, they are more capable than initial scans suggested. Scout Daxun spoke quietly. Did you notice how they celebrated their losses? They cheered for their warriors even when we defeated them. Why? Because they are foolish, Croven said. But Sinara wasn't sure. She had watched the crowds carefully. The humans weren't celebrating failure. They were celebrating effort. Trying hard seemed to matter to them as much as winning. The next day brought more challenges. The humans introduced team exercises, groups working together to solve problems. The Velkari were skilled at following orders and executing plans, but the humans did something different. They argued with each other, debated, combined different ideas. During one exercise, a team of humans that included a teacher named Jiwoo Kang and a doctor named Hana Lee solved a rescue scenario faster than the Velkari team. When asked how, Jiwoo explained, "We disagreed about the best approach, so we combined 3 different plans into one new plan. It was messy, but it worked. The Velkari didn't work that way. They had hierarchy, chain of command, efficiency through obedience." "Your methods are chaotic," Thexal observed. "Yes," Jinho agreed, "but chaos has advantages. We can adapt faster because we're used to dealing with disorder." Over the following days, more trials continued. The Velkari won most of them. Their superior genetics gave them clear advantages, but the humans won enough trials to disturb the warriors. The endurance tests, the creative problem-solving, the teamwork exercises. And more disturbing than the wins was how the humans handled their losses. They learned from each defeat. They adapted. They tried new approaches. They never seemed discouraged. One evening, Sinara watched human children playing in a park near their quarters. The children were playing a game, chasing each other, falling down, laughing, getting back up, over and over, falling and rising. "They practice failure," she said to Daxun, who had joined her. "What do you mean?" "Watch. They fall constantly, but they don't stay down. They get up and keep playing. They're teaching their young that falling doesn't mean losing." Daxun watched silently. In Velkari culture, children were trained in victory. Failure was punished, eliminated, bred out. But these human children fell and laughed and tried again. Back in the quarters, Croven was arguing with Thexal. "We should leave. We've proven our superiority. Now we should return to the fleet and conquer this world properly." But Thexal was thinking. The trials had revealed something unexpected. Humans were weak in many ways, yes, but they had capabilities the Velkari didn't possess. Not better capabilities, just different ones. Endurance, adaptability, creativity, stubbornness. Were those things dangerous? Could they matter in war? Thexal made a decision. "We stay," he said. "One more week. I want to understand these humans completely before we make our final judgment." Croven accepted the order but didn't like it. Neither did several other warriors. They wanted to return to the familiar, to certainty, to the clear superiority they had always known. But 3 warriors, including Sinara, felt different. They wanted to see more. They wanted to understand why humans, despite being weaker, didn't act defeated. Jinho visited that evening. "Tomorrow, we won't have trials. Instead, we'd like to show you our daily lives, our cities, our work, our culture. Would you accept?" Thexal agreed, though he wasn't sure why. Maybe because somewhere, deep in his perfect mind, a small doubt had taken root. A doubt that whispered, What if strength isn't everything? The next morning, the Velkari warriors were split into small groups. Each group would spend the day with different humans, seeing different parts of Earth society. Thexal didn't like separating his warriors, but he agreed. After all, what could these weak humans possibly do to trained Velkari soldiers? Sinara was paired with a doctor named Hana Lee. They went to a hospital in the city. "What is this place?" Sinara asked as they walked through white corridors full of strange machines. "We heal people here," Hana explained. "When humans get sick or injured, we bring them here to make them better." Sinara knew about medical facilities. The Velkari had them too, but theirs were only for warriors and important people. Everyone else was left to survive or die on their own. The weak didn't deserve resources. Hana led her to a room where a small human child lay in a bed. The child was very sick. Machines beeped and hummed around her. The child's mother sat beside the bed, holding her daughter's hand. "This is Mina," Hana said softly. "She has a disease that attacks her blood. We've been treating her for months." "Will she survive?" Sinara asked. "We don't know yet, but we'll try everything we can." Sinara watched as Hana checked the machines and adjusted medicines. The work was careful and slow. "How much resources do you spend on one sick child?" she asked. "Whatever it takes," Hana said simply. "But she's just one individual. If she's weak enough to get sick, why waste resources? Why not let nature take its course?" Hana stopped and looked at Sinara. Her face showed no anger, just sadness. "Because she's a person. Because her mother loves her. Because maybe Mina will grow up to cure diseases herself someday. Or maybe she won't. Maybe she'll just be a regular person who lives a regular life. That's enough reason to save her." Sinara didn't understand. In Velkari society, each individual was valued by their contribution to the empire. The strong survived. The weak were eliminated. It made the species stronger. But watching the mother hold her daughter's hand, watching Hana work so carefully to save one small life, something in Sinara's chest felt strange, uncomfortable. Later that day, Hana showed her more patience. An old man who had fallen and broken his hip. Doctors had given him a new artificial hip and were teaching him to walk again. "He's old," Sinara said. "Why repair him? He's past his useful years." "Because he wants to keep living," Hana said. "Because he has grandchildren who love him. Because every life matters, not just the young and strong ones." Sinara watched the old man take painful steps with the help of a nurse. He was smiling despite the pain. The nurse encouraged him gently. "That's it, Mr. Choi. A few more steps. You're doing great." The old man laughed. "When I was young, I could run. Now I celebrate walking across a room. Life is funny." "But you're still here," the nurse said. "That's what matters." By the end of the day, Sinara had seen dozens of patients. Sick people, injured people, old people, young people. The humans spent massive amounts of resources on all of them, not because they were useful, just because they were alive. That evening, she saw little Mina's mother crying, but these were happy tears. Mina had gotten a little better, just a little, but the mother acted like it was the greatest victory in the world. Sinara felt that strange feeling in her chest again, stronger now. She realized with shock what it was. Envy. She envied these humans who valued each other so much. Meanwhile, Scout Daxon spent his day with a teacher named Jiwoo Kang. They went to a school where young humans learned. The classroom was chaos. Children talked, asked questions, interrupted the teacher. In Velkari education facilities, students sat in silence and absorbed information. Disruption was punished severely. But Jiwoo didn't punish the children. She answered their questions patiently. She encouraged them to debate with each other. She even let them disagree with her. "Why do you allow such disorder?" Daxon asked. "Because questions mean they're thinking," Jiwoo said. I don't want students who just memorize what I say. I want students who challenge ideas and form their own opinions. But that creates conflict, inefficiency. Sometimes, Jiwoo agreed, but it also creates innovation. All our greatest discoveries came from people who questioned what everyone else believed was true. That afternoon, the children performed a play they had written themselves. It was a simple story about a small creature who stood up against a much larger, stronger enemy. The small creature won by being clever instead of strong. The children acting out the play were laughing and making mistakes, but they kept going. The parents watching cheered enthusiastically. It was amateur and imperfect, but everyone seemed proud. Why celebrate this? Daksun asked. The performance was flawed. The story is unrealistic. The weak don't defeat the strong. Don't they? Jiwoo asked. History is full of small groups defeating larger ones. Weak armies beating strong ones. People surviving things that should have killed them. Reality is more interesting than you think. Daksun spent the rest of the day watching the students. They were taught mathematics, science, history, and art. Art served no tactical purpose, yet the humans insisted it was important. One child showed Daksun a drawing she had made. It was a picture of a family holding hands under a bright sun. Why do you draw this? Daksun asked. Because it makes me happy, the child said simply. Happiness. Another thing that served no tactical purpose, yet the humans pursued it constantly. That evening, Daksun couldn't stop thinking about the play, the story of someone weak winning against someone strong. The Valkyrie would never tell such stories. They were lies, comforting lies for weak species. Weren't they? Other warriors had similar experiences. Lieutenant Croven spent the day with military personnel and was disturbed to find that human soldiers were taught to question orders if those orders seemed wrong. They had something called rules of war that limited what they could do to enemies. Inefficient. Weak. But a human soldier named Sergeant Donghyun Park explained, "We limit ourselves because we want to stay human. We could do terrible things to win wars, but then we'd become the monsters we're fighting against. Victory isn't worth losing yourself." Croven didn't understand. Victory was everything. The Valkyrie had done terrible things to achieve it. That was the price of supremacy. In the evening, all the warriors gathered back in their quarters. They compared experiences. Most were disturbed by what they'd seen. The humans were inefficient, illogical, too emotional. But Sinara spoke quietly. They value each other, even the weak ones, even the old and sick. They value everyone. That's weakness, Croven snapped. Resources wasted on the worthless. Maybe, Sinara said, but they seem happier than us. The room fell silent. Happiness wasn't something Valkyrie were engineered to pursue. They were engineered for conquest, for victory, for perfection. Happiness was irrelevant. But now that Sinara had said it, others noticed it too. The humans smiled more, laughed more. They seemed to enjoy their lives despite being weak and mortal and flawed. Thexal had spent his day with Captain Jinho Park, touring government buildings and military facilities. He had expected the humans to hide their weaknesses. Instead, Jinho showed him everything, weapons that were inferior to Valkyrie technology. Defenses that could be easily breached, strategic plans that had obvious flaws. Why show me all this? Thexal asked. You're revealing how easy it would be to conquer you. Jinho sat down and gestured for Thexal to sit too. They were on a balcony overlooking the city. Millions of lights sparkled in the darkness below. Because I want you to understand what you'd be destroying, Jinho said. Yes, you could conquer us. Your weapons are better. Your warriors are stronger. In a straight fight, we'd lose. Then why not surrender? Because we've been here before, Jinho said. Humans have a long history of fighting against impossible odds. Thousands of years ago, we were fragmented into hundreds of nations. We fought each other constantly. Wars everywhere. Genocide. Horrible things. Thexal listened. We nearly destroyed ourselves a dozen times. Jinho continued. But we didn't. We survived. We learned. Slowly, painfully. We figured out how to work together. It took centuries, but we did it. Now we're united. 7 billion people working toward common goals. You united through weakness, Thexal said. You had no choice. That's true, Jinho agreed. We didn't become strong by being perfect. We became strong by surviving our imperfection. Every failure taught us something. Every war showed us the cost of hate. Every near extinction made us appreciate life more. Jinho looked out at the city. If you conquer us, you'll win. But you won't understand us. And that means someday, somewhere, you'll face another species like us. And you'll make the same mistake of thinking strength is all that matters. Thexal felt that doubt growing inside him again. These humans were weak. That was a fact. But they were also something else. Resilient, persistent, stubborn beyond reason. He had contacted the Velkari High Command in secret 2 days ago. He had told them humanity was more dangerous than expected. He had requested the full armada. They had agreed. 200 warships were coming. But Thexal hadn't told his warriors yet, because something was happening to them. 3 of them, especially Sinara, were starting to show signs of what the humans called empathy. They were being contaminated by human ideas. Or were they learning something the Velkari had forgotten? Thexal didn't know anymore, and that uncertainty frightened him more than any enemy ever had. 3 weeks after the Velkari warriors arrived on Earth, everything changed. Human intelligence networks detected the incoming armada. 200 Velkari warships, enough firepower to turn the planet's surface into molten glass. They would arrive in less than 3 months. The human government held an emergency meeting. Defense Coordinator Doyun Kwan stood before a room full of officials, his face grim. "We have confirmation," he said. "The Velkari Empire is sending their full fleet. Our best estimates give us a 5% chance of survival in direct combat." The room filled with worried voices. Some officials demanded that the Velkari delegation on Earth be arrested immediately. They were enemy combatants now. They should be imprisoned or executed. But Captain Jinho Park stood up and disagreed. "They came here to understand us. Let's show them who we really are. All of it. Even the parts we're not proud of." "That's insane," someone shouted. "They're the enemy." "They're soldiers following orders," Jinho replied. "But they're also individuals capable of choice. If we show them the truth about humanity, some of them might choose differently." Doyun Kwan listened to both sides. Finally, he made his decision. "We'll do it Captain Park's way. Show them everything. If we're going to die, at least we'll die being honest about who we are." The next day, Jinho gathered all 15 Velkari warriors. He stood before them and spoke clearly. "We know about the Armada. We know what's coming, and we've decided to show you everything about humanity. Our strengths and our weaknesses, our best and our worst. Then you can make your own choices." Thexal felt his stomach twist. They knew. The humans had discovered his secret communication to High Command, but instead of imprisoning his warriors, they were offering to reveal more. "Why?" Thexal demanded. "Why would you show us your defenses when we'll use that information to destroy you?" "Because maybe you won't," Suman Lee said softly. "Maybe if you understand us completely, you'll make a different choice." Over the next week, the humans showed them everything. Military bases with their inadequate weapons, defense networks with clear vulnerabilities, strategic plans that a child could see through. They held nothing back, but they also showed them other things. They took the Velkari warriors to museums, buildings filled with artifacts from human history, not just the victories, but the failures too, the wars, the genocides, the terrible things humans had done to each other. Engineer Minho Choi led them through a museum dedicated to human conflicts. This section covers what we call the World Wars, he explained. Millions dead, entire cities destroyed. We developed weapons capable of ending all life on Earth. Then why didn't you use them? Kroven asked. We did, Minho said quietly. Twice. 2 cities were destroyed by nuclear weapons. The devastation was so horrible that we agreed to never use them again. We saw what we were capable of and chose to step back from that edge. He led them to another section. This covers genocides, times when groups of humans tried to completely eliminate other groups of humans. Millions murdered because of race, religion, or ideology. Sinara stared at images of the dead. You killed your own kind? Yes, Minho said. These are our greatest shames, but we show them. We teach about them, because forgetting would mean we might do it again. We force ourselves to remember our worst moments so we can be better. Another room showed the opposite. Moments when humans had chosen peace over war. Times when enemies had reconciled. The slow, painful process of building unity from division. We're not perfect, Minho said. We're violent, tribal, short-sighted. But we're also capable of change, of learning, of choosing to be better than our nature. Scout Daxon spoke up. The Velkari eliminated these problems through genetics. We bred out aggression against our own kind. We created unity through biological engineering. And what did you lose? Minho asked. You have unity, yes, but do you have choice? Can a Velkari refuse orders? Can they question their government? Can they choose a different path? Daxon had no answer, because the answer was no. Velkari couldn't refuse. They were engineered to obey. That evening, the warriors argued among themselves. The division that had been growing for weeks finally broke open. 6 warriors, led by Sinara, stood on one side. 9 warriors, led by Kroven, stood on the other. Thexal stood between them. They've shown us their weakness, Kroven said. They can barely defend themselves. The Armada will crush them easily. This is what we came here to confirm. But they've also shown us something else, Sinara argued. They've shown us why they don't surrender. They've survived their own self-destruction. They've made themselves better despite every reason not to. That's not weakness. That's strength we don't understand. It's not strength, Kroven snapped. It's sentiment, emotion. These things make them weak. Then why do they keep winning their trials? Sinara shot back. Why do they keep surprising us? Why aren't they afraid? The argument grew heated. Finally, Sinara said something that shocked everyone. I don't want to destroy them. They deserve to exist. Silence filled the room. You've been contaminated, Kroven said coldly. Human ideas have infected your mind. You're no longer thinking like a Velkari warrior. Maybe that's good, Sinara replied. Maybe Velkari thinking is incomplete. Kroven moved toward her, his hand on his weapon, but Thexal stepped between them. Enough. We are still warriors of the Empire. We don't fight each other. But the damage was done. The Supremacy Guard was divided. 6 warriors could no longer participate in humanity's destruction. They had seen too much, learned too much, felt too much. Daxun and 4 others stood with Sinara. We request asylum, Daxun said to Thexal. We won't fight against the Empire, but we won't fight for them either. We choose neutrality. Kroven was furious. Traitors! You shame the entire Velkari race. No, Sinara said sadly. We honor what the Velkari could be, what they should be. We've seen a species that chose to become better. Maybe we can too. Thexal felt torn. As commander, he should execute them for treason. But as someone who had spent weeks with these humans, who had seen what they were capable of, he found he couldn't give that order. I grant your request, he said finally. You are released from service. You may remain on Earth. Kroven protested violently, but Thexal's word was final. The next day, Jinho took all the warriors, both loyal and defectors, to see one final thing. A massive construction project in the desert. Thousands of humans working together to build something enormous. "What is this?" Thexal asked. "An evacuation ship," Jinho said. "We've been building it in secret for years, just in case we ever needed to leave Earth. It can carry 50,000 people, children mostly, and the knowledge we've gathered, our art, science, history, everything that makes us human." "You're running?" Kroven said with contempt. "We're surviving," Jinho corrected. "We'll fight your armada with everything we have. We'll probably lose, but if we do, 50,000 humans will escape to start again somewhere else. They'll carry our culture, our values, our stubborn refusal to give up, and someday their descendants will rebuild." He looked at all the warriors. "You can destroy this planet, but you can't destroy the idea of humanity, because that idea is simple. Keep trying, keep learning, keep getting back up, no matter how many times you fall down." Thexal understood then. This wasn't a surrender. This wasn't acceptance of defeat. This was humanity's promise to never truly lose, even when they lost everything. That night, as the warriors prepared for sleep, Thexal made his own choice. He gathered the 9 loyal warriors. "The Armada arrives in 2 months. We should return to space and join them." But then he added, "However, I'm not ordering you to. I'm giving you the choice. Stay or go. Fight for the Empire or remain neutral. For the first time in your lives, I'm giving you the freedom to choose." It was the most un-Velkhari thing he had ever said. Choice wasn't part of their culture. Obedience was everything. 3 more warriors chose to stay. They couldn't fight against their own species, but they couldn't fight against humanity either. That left 6 loyal warriors, just 6 from the original 15. Kroven looked at the diminished force and felt rage. "These humans have destroyed us, not with weapons, but with their weakness. They've infected us with doubt." But Thexal wondered if that was true. Maybe the humans hadn't infected them with weakness. Maybe they had revealed a weakness that had always existed in Velkhari culture. The weakness of never questioning, never choosing, never thinking beyond orders and duty. As he prepared to return to space, Thexal looked back at Earth one last time. A small blue planet full of weak mortal creatures who refused to accept their own limitations. The Armada was coming. The battle would begin soon. And for the first time in his 847 victories, Commander Thexal wasn't certain his side would win. The Velkhari Armada arrived exactly on schedule. 200 warships, each one capable of destroying cities. They formed a massive wall of metal and weapons in the space above Earth. The small blue planet looked fragile beneath them. Admiral Rekthor commanded the fleet. He had received strange reports from Commander Thexal about humanity being dangerous in unexpected ways. But looking at Earth's pitiful defenses, Rekthor saw nothing to fear. A few dozen ships, outdated weapons, no shields strong enough to stop Velkhari firepower. This would be an easy conquest. He opened communication channels to the planet. His message was simple and direct. "People of Earth, you are surrounded by the full might of the Velkhari Empire. Surrender immediately and return our delegation. You have 1 hour to comply." The human response came from Captain Jinho Park. His face appeared on screens throughout the Armada. He looked calm. Too calm. "We received your message," Jinho said. "But we have a different response. Come and take them." 4 words. That was all. Rekthor felt insulted. These weak creatures dared to refuse. "Very well. You have chosen destruction." He gave the order to attack. The battle began. Velkhari warships moved forward, their weapons charging. Human ships rose to meet them, firing desperately. The first exchange lasted only minutes. 10 human ships were destroyed. Only 1 Velkhari ship took minor damage. It was a massacre, just as Rekthor expected. But the humans didn't retreat. They kept fighting. More ships came from Earth's surface. Stations hidden on the moon fired missiles. Satellites deployed weapons. Every human asset, no matter how small, joined the battle. They were losing badly, but they fought anyway. On the planet below, 7 billion humans watched the battle on their screens. Children held their parents' hands. Old people sat in their homes. Workers stood in the streets, looking up at the sky where flashes of light marked the death of human ships. None of them ran. None of them panicked. They just watched, knowing that above them, their defenders were dying. In the Velkari command ship, Rekthor monitored the battle with satisfaction. Human resistance was collapsing as expected. A few more hours, and it would be over. Then they would land and conquer the planet properly. But then something unexpected happened. A transmission began broadcasting across all Velkari frequencies. It wasn't military communication. It wasn't a plea for mercy. It was something else entirely. The 9 Velkari warriors who had stayed on Earth appeared on the screens. Sinara stood at the front, with Daxun and the others behind her. They wore no armor, carried no weapons. They just stood in a simple room and spoke. "Warriors of the Empire," Sinara began. "We are the Supremacy Guard. We were sent to evaluate humanity 3 months ago. We are supposed to be dead or returned by now. Instead, we chose to stay. We want to tell you why." Rekthor tried to cut off the transmission, but it was being broadcast from too many sources. Hundreds of satellites, ground stations, even some of the human ships. He couldn't stop it. "The humans are weak," Sinara continued. "Their weapons are inferior. Their bodies are fragile. In any measure of pure strength, we surpass them completely. The reports you received about them are accurate. They can be conquered." Rekthor nodded. At least these warriors understood reality, but Sinara wasn't finished. "However, we learned something else. We learned that strength isn't everything. We watched humans save lives that any Velkari would consider worthless. Old ones, sick ones, weak ones. They spent massive resources to save individuals who contributed nothing to their society. On thousands of Velkari ships, warriors watched and listened. Some scoffed, some felt curious. "We watched humans teach their children to question authority," Daxun said, stepping forward. "To think for themselves, to create art that serves no tactical purpose, to pursue happiness just because happiness matters. These things seemed foolish to us at first. But then we understood," another warrior added. "These humans have survived things that should have destroyed them. They nearly made themselves extinct dozens of times. They fought wars that killed millions. They created weapons that could end all life on their world. And yet they're still here, still trying, still hoping." Sinara spoke again, her voice stronger. "They showed us their worst moments, the genocides, the wars, the hatred. They don't hide their shame. They remember it. They teach it. They force themselves to face their own darkness so they can choose to be better." In the command ship, Rekthor felt uneasy. This wasn't a military transmission. This was something more dangerous. Ideas, philosophy, things that could make warriors question. "Turn it off," he ordered. "We can't, Admiral. It's everywhere." The battle continued around them, but more and more warriors were watching the transmission instead of fighting. "We were bred to be perfect," Sinara said. "We were engineered to obey without question. We were designed to conquer. But watching humans, we realized something. We forgot how to choose. We forgot that true strength comes from making difficult decisions, not from following orders without thought." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "Right now, you're attacking a planet full of creatures who know they'll probably lose. They know they're weaker than us, but they fight anyway. Not because they're stupid, because they've decided that some things are worth dying for. Freedom, choice, the right to exist on their own terms." Below them, another human ship exploded. More lives lost. But the transmission continued. "We were sent here to evaluate if humanity deserved to exist," Daxun said. Our judgment is this: they deserve to exist more than we do, because they chose what they became. We were made. They made themselves. The final warrior spoke. You can destroy them. You have the power. But ask yourselves, is this what the Velkari Empire should be? Conquerors who destroy any species that thinks differently? Is that strength, or is that fear? The transmission ended. For a moment, silence filled the Velkari fleet. Then chaos erupted. Ships began breaking formation. Not many at first, just a few. Commanders demanding to speak with the admiral. Warriors questioning their orders. The perfect military machine starting to crack. Rekthor tried to restore order, but the doubt had been planted. The broadcast had done something no weapon could do. It made the Velkari warriors think for themselves. On 17 ships, the commanders ordered a ceasefire. They refused to continue the attack until they understood more about these humans. Rekthor threatened them with execution. Some obeyed and resumed fighting. Others didn't. More ships broke formation, not to flee, but to stop fighting. 40 ships, then 70, then more than 100. The battle didn't end with humanity's surrender. It ended with the Velkari Armada tearing itself apart from within. Some ships continued fighting, die-hard traditionalists who believed in conquest above all else, but they were outnumbered now. The majority of the fleet had stopped attacking, confused, and questioning. In the command ship, Rekthor made a desperate decision. He would destroy Earth himself, even if he had to act alone. He ordered his ship forward, weapons charging for a planet-killing strike, but his own crew refused the order. Admiral, his second-in-command said quietly, I've listened to the broadcast. I want to see these humans for myself before we destroy them. I want to understand. You're relieved of duty, Rekthor snarled. Then relieve all of us, the officer said, because we all agree. Rekthor looked around his bridge. Every warrior, every technician, every crew member was watching him, waiting, not with hostility, but with something worse. Doubt, questions, the virus of independent thought. He had lost before firing a shot. The battle ended. Some Velkari ships retreated, returning to the Empire to report this disaster. Others requested permission to land on Earth and learn more about humanity. The fleet that had come to conquer broke into dozens of factions, each choosing their own path. In the days that followed, the Velkari Empire began to fracture. Warriors across conquered worlds heard about the broadcast. They began questioning their orders. Some rebelled. Some asked for transfer to non-military duties. Some demanded the right to choose their own lives. The perfect empire, held together by genetic engineering and absolute obedience, discovered that perfection was fragile. One crack, and everything fell apart. 3 weeks after the battle, Commander Thexol stood with Captain Jinho Park in the same garden where they had talked weeks before. The city lights spread below them, peaceful and undamaged. My empire is collapsing, Thexol said quietly. Warriors are deserting. Worlds are declaring independence. 800 years of conquest falling apart in weeks. I'm sorry, Jinho said, and he sounded like he meant it. Are you? We came to destroy you. Yes, but I didn't want your empire to fall. I just wanted you to leave us alone, to give us the choice to exist. Thexol was silent for a long moment. We were the strongest warriors of our kind. We came here expecting to conquer. Instead, you conquered us. Without firing the killing shot, without destroying our ships, you conquered our minds. We didn't conquer you, Jinho corrected gently. We just showed you a different way. You chose what to do with that information. That's the point. Choice. It's always been about choice. Thexol looked at the human captain, so small, so weak, and yet somehow more dangerous than any enemy the Velkari had ever faced. What happens now? Thexol asked. Now you figure out what the Velkari want to become. You were bred for conquest, but that doesn't mean conquest is all you can be. Humans were violent and tribal for most of our history. We changed. You can too. It won't be easy. Nothing worth doing is easy, Jinho said. But you're not alone. If you want help, if you want guidance, humanity will share what we've learned. The mistakes we made, the lessons we discovered. We're not perfect, but we're willing to help. Thexol realized the truth then. This was why humanity was dangerous. Not because they were strong, because they offered hope. They showed that change was possible, that even deeply flawed species could become better. And hope was the most dangerous weapon of all. Months later, when other species asked what happened to the Velkari Empire, the answer was simple. The strongest of their kind went to confront humanity, and they never returned. Because the warriors who stayed on Earth stopped being Velkari warriors. They became something new, something they chose for themselves. And the warriors who went back to the Empire spread ideas that couldn't be stopped by weapons or commands. Ideas about choice, about questioning, about being more than what you were designed to be. Humanity didn't destroy the Velkari Empire. They gave it a mirror. And when the Velkari looked at their reflection honestly for the first time, they decided to become something different. Not conquered, not destroyed, transformed. And in the end, transformation proved more powerful than any weapon in the galaxy.